Well, hey kids, welcome back to the channel. Rio here, and today is Wednesday, so today is the next in my series of film reviews. This is it. We're bringing it home on the holiday movies. This will be my final one in this series. And hopefully you guys will join me for some other stuff. But today we are going to be talking about Rudolph's Shiny New Year.
Monday.
You must find the baby New Year.
It's a special holiday treat as Rudolph lights up his nose in search of the new arrival.
I'm looking for Happy, the baby New Year.
But finds much more than he bargained for. Rudolph's Shiny New Year.
Okay, so Rudolph's Shiny New Year was the second of the Rudolph specials. It came out in 1976. And basically what we're looking at is they have kind of anthropomorphized the New Year. That is literally a baby. And the baby New Year runs off. Right? So it's up to Rudolph to try to find him so that time can progress, because apparently it won't if he doesn't bring him back. He gets help from Father Time, who kind of helps him know where to look for him and all this kind of stuff, explains what the stakes are, and thus, okay? So it's very funny because he basically is traveling through time. So he goes to these different islands that are different time periods, and there is some sort of anthropomorphized image of that year that greets him and tries to help him look for the baby New Year. So like they go to 1776 and it's Ben Franklin, right? It goes like this. It's a medieval one and there's a knight that's there. So it's kind of fun. It's a little silly, but it's fun. This one, it's worth seeing just because of the puns alone. Okay, so let's talk about the people behind the scenes here. As I mentioned before, when doing these rank and bass things, you find that a lot of the people that worked on these are no longer with us. So I am going to note that it's necessary and try not to repeat myself when we think about people that I've already talked about in these. Okay, so the story was directed by Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, Rankin Bass, and was written by Romeo Muller. However, we also have the additional writing credit to Robert May for creating the character of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and to Johnny Marks, who wrote this song about Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Okay, so they are credited in the writing credits as well because they were part of creating the mythos that they're working from. Of course, Robert May passed away in 1976, and Johnny Marks passed away in 1985. And we look at the music, and again, we have Maury Laws credited with the music, but then also, of course, the late Johnny Marks, because he wrote Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer song. So let's take some time, let's talk about the cast on this thing. This is kind of a fun cast listing on this one. Of course, we'll start with Rudolph. Rudolph is being voiced by Billy Mae Richards, who was the original voice of Rudolph in 1964. She does voice Rudolph one more time in a special that came out in 1979, which is Rudolph's Christmas in July. Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. So she's Rudolph in all three of these specials. She was also, if you ever watch any of the Care Bear movies, she is the voice of Tenderheart Bear. So, yay. Unfortunately, of course, Miss Richards did pass away. She passed away in 2010. Okay, so all the characters that Rudolph's going to meet on this journey. So we start with Father Time. Father Time is being voiced by Red Skelton. Now, Red Skelton, come on, Red Skelton, was a vaudeville performer, very talented comedian, had his own like TV show and variety show, radio, like everything. This guy was around forever and was in almost everything. Just look him up, Red Skelton. You'll see the stuff he's done. The guy, legendary, absolute legendary. He also voices another character in here called Baby Bear. It's a Goldilocks sequence. And the Baby Bear is also being voiced by Red Skelton. It's a character called Junior that he used to do during his live performances. So that's the voice. It's Junior as the voice of Baby Bear. Those are both Red Skelton. And unfortunately, of course, Red Skelton did pass away. He passed away in 1997. Okay, so as I said, as they're trying to track down the baby New Year, they were going to these little islands, archipelagos of time is what it is, not islands, they're archipelagos of time. And each one is basically, it's here. And they meet a sort of anthropomorphized personification of this is the year, right? So let's talk a little bit about some of these. Okay, so first of all, we have 1 million BC, it's caveman. When they meet 1 million BC, he is being voiced by Maury Amsterdam. Name might not mean a lot to a lot of people, but he was best known as playing Buddy Sorrell on the Dick Van Dyke Show, and was also, a very talented, established vaudeville performer. He's the voice of the caveman, and unfortunately, he passed away in 1996. Then we go to the medieval island, and we meet Sir 1023. Sir 1023 is being voiced by Frank Gorshin. Come on, it's the Riddler from Batman 66. A million other things for sure, but, it's the Riddler. Unfortunately, he also has passed away. He passed away in 2005. And then we have, this one's a fun one too. We've got, again, you have one of these characters that's doing 100 voices. In this case, the person doing that is Don Messick. Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo. It's Don Messick, the original Scooby-Doo. Okay. He also did a whole bunch of other characters too, which you probably know. Hampton J. Pig from Tiny Toon Adventures. He was Astro on the Jetsons. He was Boo Boo on the Yogi Bear Show. He was Muttley, with Dastardly and Muttley. That was all Don Messick. It's all Don Messick. He does like 4 different characters in this thing. And unfortunately, of course, Don Messick also passed away. He passed away in 1997. And then, of course, we have a couple more here. We have Harold Perry as Big Ben the Whale, which is how they're getting from one archipelago to the other. Was an early radio star, did a lot of cartoons, film appearances, voiceovers. You've heard his voice before. He, of course, also passed away. He passed away in 1985. And lastly, we have Iris Rainier, still alive. Yes, Iris Rainier is 80 years old. She is still alive. She did several characters in here, including the voice of the Baby New Year, who is called Happy. She was the voice of Happy, along with the Mama Bear in the Goldilocks sequence and Nanny 9 O'Clock. Okay, you're hearing the names of these characters, right? You understand how surreal this thing was. But yes, Iris Rainier. She also was in a couple classics that I know you've probably seen: Nestor the Long-Eared Donkey and The First Christmas Snow. She was characters in all of those. Still alive. Now, one of the things that's really interesting as we're closing up on this whole Rankin Bass thing is I really want to talk a bit about these animagic puppets. Most of them are gone. They weren't kept, they weren't stored, they weren't restored. A few have been found. There was a Santa and a Rudolph that were found. Said to be from the original 1964 special, but I believe there's some question on that. They might be from a different special, but still Rankin Bass. The Father Time animagic puppet that was used for this special still exists. I know. I want to see it, like, really, really bad. It exists to this day. It's being kept at Rankin Bass's New York headquarters. It's on display in a case, so you don't touch it. These things were very fragile, and they weren't built to last. So, right, restoration is very important for these things. But they have taken it to a few conventions. And their historian, who is Rick Goldschmidt, has said that they take it out occasionally for convention tours and stuff, and you can see it. But yeah, one of the very few animagic puppets that's still in existence. So that's kind of cool. The Rudolph for this one was actually redesigned for this special from the original one. I'm going to assume maybe if that one they found is the original, they didn't know where it was. That's why they had to do a redesign. I don't know. But I digress. It was redesigned by a man named Paul Koch, who has actually done a lot of work with Rankin Bass, creating characters. Just some examples: Pinocchio's Christmas, Easter Bunny Coming in Town, Leprechaun Christmas Gold. These are all ones he worked on. Well, he's the one, he was their production designer for those. And he did a lot of work redesigning the Rudolph for this special. And unfortunately, again, Paul Coker, of course, passed away in 2022. So, yeah, this one's fun. If for nothing else, for the puns, man. This one is kind of surreal, but I don't know. I remember seeing it when I was a kid and watching it later as an adult. Certain things make sense now that didn't make sense to me when I watched it when I was like 6, 7, 8 years old. And things I didn't quite get. Now I get it. It's really cute. It's an absolutely wholesome, harmless Rankin Bass Christmas special. And I think it's worth watching. This one is a good time. So not hard to find this one. I know this one's been released on collections from Rankin Bass. It's also one that I've seen shown a few times on like Hallmark, Freeform, these kind of networks that run the 25 Days of Christmas specials, and they all show all the old Rankin Bass. This one does tend to make the rotation. So this one's not too hard to get your hands on. So if you haven't seen this one, you shouldn't have any trouble finding it. But okay, guys, I think that's it. I think that's it for my holiday series. I don't know what's going to happen next. I'm thinking about it. You just have to hit the like and subscribe button here somewhere, and you'll know what I'm doing by the time I figure it out. All right, guys. So I guess this is the one. So, hope everybody had a good holiday, whichever holiday you celebrate. And Happy New Year. And let's all just hope for the best, shall we? Bye.